My brother-in-law died suddenly, and now my sister and her kids have to sell their home. That's why I told my husband we could not put off getting life insurance any longer. An agent offered us a 10-year, $500,000 policy for nearly $50 a month. Then we called SelectQuote. SelectQuote found us identical coverage for only $19 a month, a savings of $369 a year.
Whether you need a $500,000 policy or a $5 million policy, SelectQuote could save you more than 50% on term life insurance.
For your free quote, go to SelectQuote.com. SelectQuote.com. That's SelectQuote.com.
SelectQuote. We shop, you save. Full details on example policies at SelectQuote.com/commercials.
My brother-in-law died suddenly, and now my sister and her kids have to sell their home. That's why I told my husband we could not put off getting life insurance any longer. An agent offered us a 10-year, $500,000 policy for nearly $50 a month. Then we called SelectQuote. SelectQuote found us identical coverage for only $19 a month, a savings of $369 a year.
Whether you need a $500,000 policy or a $5 million policy, SelectQuote could save you more than 50% on term life insurance.
For your free quote, go to SelectQuote.com. SelectQuote.com. That's SelectQuote.com.
SelectQuote. We shop, you save. Full details on example policies at SelectQuote.com/commercials.
Welcome to Pretty Lies and Alibis. Join us as we seek the truth and travel the long road to justice. What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Pretty Lies and Alibis. I'm Gigi Fruit Loop. What you know?
I'm good. I don't like the rain.
I know, but it's warm. It's so warm. Like, I love it.
I don't. I want snow.
Yeah, hush your mouth.
Yeah.
At our age, Fruit Loop, we slip and fall on something. That's a hip. Okay?
It's true. It's true.
Just saying. Well,
and
so
you would be the one to slip and fall.
I would totally be the one to slip and fall. Did it yesterday, as a matter of fact. Just saying. So big news. We're going to get to that in a second. Real quick, I want to say thank you to Kresha. I hopped on her live with her and Eric and the host from the L Mom and had a great time. It was very relaxed. We just kind of threw around some stuff about what has happened. So I'll post a link to that for those of you who didn't see it live. You can go watch. We also want to give a big thank you to our sponsor, Two Cool T-Shirt Quilts. Go check out Andrea at twocooltshirtquilts.com/Pretty Lies and Alibis. She'll know we sent you. And what can she do for you, Fruit Loop?
They can take your T-shirts and make them into a quilt that is too cool.
Yes, I'm rocking the David Bowie shirt today. I've been hanging with Ziggy Stardust all morning. So before we get to the fact that Mark Means has been disqualified. What? You were at dinner last night and I'm texting you. I'm like, I'm going to interrupt her dinner, but I don't care.
Yeah, no, I was worthy of interruption.
Yes, but quickly, they did briefly come on camera today for what was supposed to be these hearings about the subpoenas for the Idaho Department of Health and Welfare. Ultimately, Boyce just informed everybody that Means was disqualified as Lori's attorney yesterday, and these are all his filings. And he also said this now leaves Archibald as Lori's only attorney. I said they got him off the bench and put him in the batter's box. He's up.
Yeah. So I'm kind of like, oh, like,
well,
you know what I mean? Now we don't have nobody to make fun of.
Kind of like the circus is leaving town. A little sad about that. You know, on the live, I said, does anybody else picture Mark Means kind of wrapped in a blanket this morning, eating some ice cream, listening to All by Myself on repeat? Because I do.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's probably not happy today. I wonder how long it'll take for him to get on the news.
I wonder if Means and Lori will remain friends.
I don't know. Well, clearly, I mean, technically, I wonder if the fact that he's her guardian went with that. I don't know. Be interesting to know. Can he go visit her now as somebody who is her former attorney? We'll have to ask Scott Reich because he knows all that stuff.
Yeah.
So Means had told Archibald 2 days ago that he would be requesting a continuance on today's hearings. And Archibald said he wonders what Lori knows at this point about Means being disqualified. And he wonders what she knows or understands about this hearing in particular. And then he said that staff has told him that she watches all of these Zoom hearings.
Yeah, because he said, he said, I don't know. I've got to talk to my client, see if she knows.
Okay, how you watching hearings about your case if you're incompetent? I'm just putting that out there.
Hey, what's that movie when the guy just stares at the TV? Oh, it's with Harrison Ford, where he's in that accident or whatever, and he doesn't know who he is. Oh, come on, what's the name of the movie? Regarding Henry.
Oh yeah,
Regarding Henry.
I can just picture Lori watching these hearings the same way I sit and watch Jeopardy. I'm just like,
Yeah.
So anyways, so he wants, like you said, he wants to talk to Lori about Mark Means and see kind of what she knows. And that was kind of it. They continued the hearings. And here's the nice thing. Essentially, it was refreshing because Judge Boyce said, well, he essentially said, I think some of this stuff could be handled outside of the courtroom like normal. And so now we're going to start to see some normalcy in this case where you go to a hearing for things that are ripe, as they say in court. Yeah. They need to be heard. They're important, not this frivolous filing everything, Chicken Little, the sky's falling. This is all a conspiracy against my client.
Yeah. Well, Boyce said, if you guys can handle this out of court, then we won't have to have this hearing.
And that's what you're going to find is a lot of these little things that we were in on. Now they're just going to handle it like normal lawyers do, which is per my last email. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So, all right. Means disqualified. Just out of the blue. Boyce posted it. Everybody went nuts.
Yeah.
So here's the thing. Do you remember last year when Means was asked by Judge Edens if he had ever represented anyone associated with this case, and Mark Means said no? And then you had Rob Wood go, Remember he did that little head cock and was like, you're lying. So that was part of this where, I mean, essentially he was disqualified because of a conflict of interest. Although there's a million reasons this was probably going to happen anyway.
Yeah. Well, think about it. If Chad revealed stuff to him about Lori or vice versa.
Right. It is a legitimate issue.
Yeah.
So this ruling is from a motion filed by the state on July 27th of 2021. I believe that was under seal. Yep. So there was a closed hearing about this on September 8th of this year, and the case submitted an audio file of an April 28th, 2020 recorded jail call between Chad and Lori for what they call an in-camera review, which means that they're looking at this stuff in private. That's what I had to Google it. So after that, the court determined that an inquiry was necessary to assist the court in determining the merits of the state's contentions that Mark Means his ability to adequately represent Lori were compromised due to the alleged conflict. And then on October 8th of 2021, the court conducted a private inquiry with Chad to determine whether Means had ever represented him and if it rose to the level of actual conflict, because it could be waivable or unwaivable. And Pryor was present with Chad during this inquiry. So in the filing, and we have that on our website, prettyliesandalibis.org. We're still working on putting content up there, but we do have a document page where this is posted, all 17 pages. So the findings of fact are that Lori and Chad were married on November 5th, 2019. And that she had 2 minor children at the time of the marriage, JJ and Tylee, but at the time of the marriage, they were dead.
Yep. So on February 20th, 2020, Lori was arrested in Hawaii for 2 counts of felony desertion of a child, as well as misdemeanor charges of resisting and obstructing an officer, solicitation of a crime, and contempt of court in Madison County. Hey, I'm sorry. We just got a post from Trisha, and she said, I wonder if Means is going to now be considered a zombie.
Oh, yeah. Oh, touche.
Yeah.
How quickly they turn in Lori's world.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, that's funny.
Oh, man. Rexburg took Lori into custody on March 4th, 2020, when she was extradited from Hawaii to Idaho. And that's when Lori retained Means. Remember, she had that whole table full of
she had Edwin
representation.
And yeah. She had 2 other.
That lady. Yeah, the lady. I don't remember her name. So on March 21st, 2020, Chad retained Pryor, who works in the same complex as Means. March 24th, 2020, according to Pryor, on March 31st, according to documents, Lori and Chad signed a conflict of interest waiver. It's still weird. Remember, we thought it was weird from the get-go.
Yeah, and I mean,
Means was representing both.
Like, I've always heard when you have co-defendants never get the same attorney.
Yeah.
Because eventually you got to turn on each other. I mean, that's just, you're going to have to point the finger at the other person.
Yep. So April 28th, 2020, Means posted on Twitter, I'm going to miss these. Maybe he'll continue to do these.
Oh, dude, just wait till he comes out of shock. We're going to get like I'm already signed up for alerts. Every tweet, my phone's going to ding.
Please note that this office represents Mr. Chad Daybell. If any agency, investigative authority, etc., wishes to contact my client, please contact my office directly.
Yet, have you ever represented anybody else in this case? Nope.
Liar. Liar. So on April 28th, again, Means sent a press release stating, please note that this office represents Mr. Chad Daybell. Please direct all requests for communication statements of the like to this office. So he's continuing to say it.
It's almost like when he posts that on Twitter, it's not that it's legitimate. It's more of a, look at me. I'm representing, this huge suspect. At that point, he was only a suspect. It was seemed more like bragging on Twitter than like, okay, if you investigators are reading my Twitter and you want to talk to Chad.
Yeah. Stupid. Again, on April 28, 2020, Chad and Lori had a visit via telephone tablet in Madison County Jail. During this conversation, Chad stated, Mark is my attorney. Chad alluded he had shared confidential information with Mr. Means that Chad believed would be covered by attorney-client privilege, and the video recording also suggested that Chad thought he would not have to testify against Lori if Mark Means represented them both. I swear this is all shady. Mm-hmm. May 2nd, 2020, Means told the court during a bail reduction hearing that he represented both Chad and Lori. He made documentation everywhere.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. June 9th. Sometimes you misspeak and say something. You can kind of be like, oh, I didn't really say that. Well, here's 90 million things that...
You put it on Twitter, it's on there forever.
Exactly. On June 9th, the search warrant was executed on Chad's property and the remains of JJ and Tyler were found. During the search, Chad called Means before he called Pryor. Yep. Chad was charged with 2 counts of felony destruction, alteration, and concealment of evidence. The charges were amended on June 30th, 2020 to include 2 felony counts of conspiracy to destroy, alter, or conceal evidence. Chad was listed as a co-conspirator. Remember in that phone call with Lori, Chad says that Means will be calling you.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's right. Look at you.
See, I can remember stuff. So you're going to pick up with the next one, right?
Oh, yeah, sorry. I zoned out real quick. I just was picturing Mark Means on the couch.
Our social media is getting blowed up. My phone is like a Christmas tree over here.
Oh, that's good. That's what we like. Yeah. So sometime in February or early March, Chad retained Mark Means and paid him a sum of money to represent Lori. And Means entered his appearance as her attorney on March 4th, 2020, as co-counsel with the 2 other attorneys that were that initial, I think it was a bond hearing or arraignment, her arraignment. Mm-hmm. And that was the one where Kay's giving her the laser eyes as Lori walks by with her nose in the air.
Oh, yeah.
So later that month I need lunch, y'all. See, later that month on March 21st, 2020, Chad retained John Pryor, even though he had no charges pending against him at that time. And on April 28th, 2020, after Chad had retained Pryor, Means communicated to the public through social media that he represented Chad.
Remember we talked about this and we said, did he do that so he could be in on the conversation and know everything that was going on and say, remember that?
Mm-hmm.
I remember us talking about that.
Yep, I do too. Means emailed Rob Wood asking him to provide a press release stating that Means represented Chad and to direct investigation efforts relating to Lori and Chad to him. Oh, Boy. In the camera inquiry, the court reviewed a phone call recorded from Madison County Jail on April 28th, 2020. Lori and Chad spoke while Lori was in custody, where Chad indicated that Mark Means was his attorney and Chad knew Means was also her attorney. Mm-hmm. So Chad said he did tell Lori he would eventually go with the other guy, referring to Pryor. And after that call on May 1st, 2020, a bail hearing was heard in Lori's case. At that hearing, Means said to the judge he represented both Lori and Chad. So on June the 9th, 2020, the search warrant, that was when they were executing the search warrant where they found the remains. When law enforcement arrived, Chad called Means and asked officers to speak to Means about the search warrant. And the filing says it's undisputed that Chad called Means, but in the private inquiry with Chad, the court determines there's a dispute about the content of the call. So clearly, you've got Chad kind of changing his story a little bit, maybe saying, well, I didn't say what I told you. I don't know. It just, clearly there's something there.
Yeah.
So on June 30th, 2020, Fremont County Judge Edens asked Means if he had ever represented any co-conspirator listed in the complaint, and Means denied representing anybody other than Lori.
Hence the cocked head by Wood.
Look, I need somebody to make me a bunch of GIFs of Rob Wood's nonverbal facial reactions to some of the crazy stuff Mark Means has said over the last couple of years.
Yeah, that'd be great. You guys are all creative. So.
Yes, we're not.
Yeah. So his position was unpersuasive, and Judge Adams concluded that Means had represented them both. He ruled there was a conflict of interest stemming from Means' concurrent representation. However, Judge Adams concluded that given the nature and what are you saying, tenure of the I was going back to music class in like 5th grade. There's a tenor. It's a tenor.
There's smoke coming out of your ears, Fruit Loop.
Yeah, soprano. Of the specific charges in this case, the conflict was waivable if Chad and Lori furnished valid waivers to the court. So the filing says there is some question about the validity of the waiver Mark Means provided to the court. Imagine that. I bet you it was a misspelled word on there. I bet you there was.
A word.
Yes, several. March 2nd, 2021, Means filed a request for Lori to be evaluated and submitted the bill of the examination to Fremont County. The state challenged the action because Lori had not been declared indigent. She wasn't declared broke yet. On May 21st, 2021, the court deemed Lori indigent. May 24th, 2021, the grand jury returned the indictments charging Chad and Lori as co-conspirators in the murders of JJ and Tylee, as well as Tammy Daybell. The maximum penalties are death. May 26, 2021 was the initial appearance because she had a pending evaluation and her competency was in question in another case. The state's request for counsel to be appointed would not be considered at that time. June 8th, Lori was found incompetent. I remember that day. I was like, "Brr."
Oh, yeah. But we kind of knew it was coming when they canceled that first appearance. That was all it could have been.
Yeah. Then they had those breakout sessions and all that stuff. Yeah. So, yeah, we would get on and be like, okay, we're ready. We're going to go on to a breakout session.
I know. I would like rush home from being somewhere and.
Yeah. Dude, you all right? You got a little choked up.
We counted like how many grapes were on the seal.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. We were like, oh, yeah. And then 50 minutes later, they'd come back on and be like, okay, good job. Everybody good? Okay, good. Bye. Yeah. Yeah. Court's adjourned. July 27th, 2021, under seal, the state filed a motion objecting to the appearance of Means in the case, raising several issues. Means isn't a death penalty certified attorney, and since she was declared indigent, Lori had a right to appointed counsel. Archibald was appointed as co-counsel to Means while the court assessed the conflict issue.
Real quick, before I forget, we want to give a big thank you to Kresha for sending us these awesome Justice
I've got mine right here.
And
I wore it yesterday. It's
we will wear these. And you know what's funny is I have on my mic stand here. I wore it until Travis's sister gave us these during the Jodi Arias trial, Justice for Travis. So I got it hanging on my mic because that's going to be my little justice stand for my my bracelets.
Yeah.
All right. So September 8th, 2021, even though Lori's case is stayed, counsel for Lori and Chad were present for a hearing and ordered Chad to appear for this inquiry to resolve the conflict issue. Means continued to file pleadings in Lori's case as sworn declarations, signing his name under penalty of perjury to attest to facts that Mean has furnished to the court. Notably, Means filed a declaration motion on October 27th, 2021, where Means conveyed information he obtained from his client, Lori, as the declarant and swore under penalty of perjury the truth of the statements contained in the filing. The filing talks about Lori's right to effective assistance of counsel. To prove ineffective assistance of counsel, a defendant must show, number one, their lawyer's performance fell below an objective standard of reasonableness. Number two, a reasonable probability that, but for counsel's unprofessional efforts, the result of the proceedings would have been different. An attorney conflict of interest can lead to ineffective assistance of counsel. This occurs if a defendant's lawyer actively represented conflicting interests and that an actual conflict of interest existed and adversely affected the lawyer's performance. So the Sixth Amendment right to counsel is a defendant's right to choose his or her counsel. However, when the right to select and be represented by one's attorney is messed up by the, and I just added that because I cannot read that word, I butchered it, by the Sixth Amendment is to guarantee an effective advocate for each criminal defendant rather than to ensure that a defendant will be represented by the lawyer they prefer. So in other words, you may have the lawyer you want, but if we find a conflict, the courts can say, he can't be your attorney.
Yeah. Well, remember the fit he pitched when the whole homework deal and calling LDS to get representation, all that stuff, he threw a fit.
Well, and the thing too is he slung some really unfounded accusations around about the LDS church and people and Rob Wood and everybody else. And I think that under penalty of perjury, they've said that a few times in this filing, which, I mean, Kathy Russin tweeted out, you could read that as maybe he's going to be in a little bit of trouble because of all this. Who knows?
Well, is he going to be barred? Disbarred?
I think his law license, as we say, when somebody's close to death, they're circling the drain. I think that his law career is circling the drain right now. I think it's in huge jeopardy.
Well, the big, you lied under oath to a judge.
Exactly. That's a big, big deal. It's first year law school stuff. Isn't that what Pryor says?
That's right, yeah.
So representation of more than one criminal defendant in a case endangers special dangers, which a court must be aware, as it could interfere with effective assistance of counsel. The right to one's counsel of choice is not absolute, though it will only be disturbed in the most extraordinary of circumstances. It says the court recognizes the defendant has a Sixth Amendment right to counsel and presumptively the right to counsel of her choosing, but the court must balance this with the right to effective counsel, which can be threatened by an attorney having a conflict of interest.
Yeah, I mean, as you do have the right to choose your own counsel, but when your counsel is doing things that are unethical or whatever, I mean, the court has the right to say you're done.
And this is probably a bad analogy, but if I go to the hospital needing a heart surgery and I bring a spine surgeon with me, that hospital is not going to let this happen. And if they do, they're going to be liable way down the road when that goes south. And I mean, it's just an analogy, but it's kind of how I thought about it, is that the court has a responsibility to make sure this case does not end up in appeals for something they could have prevented by a ruling like this.
Well, from the get-go, it was just mistake after mistake. Remember when he didn't register his number with a telephone calling into the jail?
Yep.
And that's when it was recorded and all. It was his fault.
Right. Exactly.
Like he didn't register his number.
And I mean, the thing is maybe he was qualified enough to represent her in the past when these charges, the max sentence was 5 years. But this was coming anyway. When she's arraigned and when they impose the death penalty on her or they say they're going for it, he was never qualified to do that anyway.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Are you picking up here?
We're at a lawyer shall not represent a client if the representation involves a concurrent conflict of interest. A concurrent conflict of interest exists if, number one, the representation of one client will be directly adverse to another client. There's a significant risk that the representation of one or more clients will be materially limited by the lawyer's responsibilities to another client, former client, or third person, or by the personal interest of the lawyer. Rule 1.7b states that even if a concurrent conflict of interest exists, a lawyer may represent a client if the lawyer believes that the lawyer will be able to provide competent and diligent representation to each affected client. 2, the representation is not prohibited by law. And 3, the representation does not involve the assertion of a claim against another client represented by the lawyer in the same litigation or other proceeding before a court. And then 4, each affected client gives informed consent confirmed in writing. To proceed forward, the court must determine, 1, whether it knows or has reason to know that a conflict exists, and is it waivable in the present case. Analysis. Death is different. When capital punishment is a legitimate potential, the court's duties to protect a fair and an orderly procedure are unquestionable. And that was the big thing. He was not a death penalty attorney.
Right.
Like, it's totally different.
Yep.
The state has raised the issue of a conflict of interest within Mr. Means' ongoing representation of Lori. It says the court has not taken this issue lightly and hasn't rushed a decision, instead conducted hearings in private. I want to be a fly on the wall with those.
Oh, me too.
Yeah.
So procedurally, and this is scary, they say this case is in its infancy, and they note that Lori hasn't even been arraigned due to her incompetency and the stay in her case. So the indictment was issued on May 25th of this year, and the issue of a potential conflict has persisted for several months in spite of the stay in her case. And even though the case is currently stayed, the court has considered the regularity with which pleadings continue to be filed by the parties, and the court determines that this matter is ripe for determination at this time. The court has reason to know that a conflict exists. The state has raised the issue on several occasions, but formally with a motion filed July 27th of this year. Hearings were held and also a private inquiry with Chad to learn what he knew and or understood regarding a possible conflict with Means' concurrent representation. Judge Edens found a conflict of interest in a related case. The court finds that Means represented Chad between April 2020 and June 2020. The defendants are now co-conspirators charged with multiple felony counts, including charges of first-degree murder, and Means is Lori's current attorney. The indictment issued set forth alleged overt acts relating to an alleged conspiracy between Chad and Lori occurred on or between October 26, 2018 and June 9th, 2020. And during that time frame includes the time when Means represented Chad. The court concludes that Means concurrently represented the co-defendants in those cases within the time frame of the alleged conspiracy. And I was thinking about that. That's June 9th is when they found the bodies. Mm-hmm. So October 26, 2018 is kind of when we think they started communicating. Yep. So they're covering all that whole time up until Chad was arrested.
Yep.
So when a conflict was previously determined, Judge Edens held that given the fact the defendants had since retained separate counsel and the charges contemplated in that case carried a maximum sentence of 5 years in prison, it didn't rise to the serious nature where a defendant could not rationally choose concurrent counsel, and the conflict should be waived in this case. The record reflects that Judge Edens questioned conflicting information provided to the court about the date of the waivers and whether they had been properly executed.
Wow. So Judge Edens emphasized that the acceptance of the waivers, even with doubt, was limited to the case before him, and should a subsequent case or charges be filed with more severe penalties, the waiver would likely not be honored and a conflict would need to be addressed, which is what happened.
Exactly. Yeah.
They note that the previous charges arose from the same facts and occurrences at the root of the murder charges in this case. It gives this heightened scrutiny with the potential for the death penalty, and also the fact that they were charged together in a single indictment and are co-conspirators. Now that the maximum penalties are the death penalty, the conflict of Means formally representing Chad cannot be waived as it triggers an ineffective counsel concern. And that's just what we talked about. He shared stuff with him. I mean, obviously, Chad has shared a lot of information with him.
I think so. And, you have to look at when this baby's put to bed and she's sentenced and Chad's sentenced. I mean, Lori would do the same thing she's always done. She's going to cry foul that Means did her wrong. And then how terrible would it be if down the road this didn't happen and then she gets a new trial because of ineffective counsel? I mean, I'm so glad that Judge Boyce did this. I really think it protects the integrity of this trial going forward.
Oh, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
He doesn't want to mess either.
No, this is on his watch. So I think he was smart between June and almost January. It seems like he took a long time, and he cited a lot of case law in this filing. I didn't pull all that in, but you could tell he did his homework, and he's erring on the side of caution, which is what we need with such a huge case. And even with a small case, it shouldn't be different, between a case that's worldwide and a case that you've never heard of at your county jail.
Yeah. So it goes on to say the court finds an actual conflict. Chad indicated in the private inquiry that he never believed Means was his attorney, but he did acknowledge he had previously talked to Means and called Means when the search warrant was being executed on his property prior to his arrest and charged of the murder of J.J. Tiley and Tammy. His admission that he called Means acknowledges communication between Chad and Means' own statement that he represented Chad, even though the extent of the representation is unclear. So basically, Means running his mouth.
I mean, yeah, because it's not like just in court. He said, yeah, I represent him. He goes on Twitter twice. He asked Rob Wood to prepare a media statement saying that he represents Chad. So you stepped in it, buddy.
Yep. Less is more, Mr. Means. Less is more.
Talk less, smile more.
Yeah. That's why God gave you 2 ears and 1 mouth.
Right.
Yeah. That's what my mom used to tell me all the time.
She still tells you that.
I know, right? That's right. She just told me that yesterday. No, I'm just kidding. Because Chad and Lori are named as co-conspirators, they have interests adverse to each other, and each has a right to counsel who is free to zealously advocate for them independently without the ability being hampered by a conflict of interest. I always wanted, you think about how that would have looked. Means would have been 2 different people. I'm over here. Blah, blah, blah. Now I'm going to represent Chad.
What's he going to do? Run from one side to the other? And
yeah.
She's innocent.
Yeah. He's innocent. She's guilty. Yeah.
Like watching a tennis match.
Yeah, it'd be like Saturday. So that needs to be a Saturday Night Live skit.
Oh my gosh, yes, that would be awesome.
That'd be great. Yeah. So given the facts and charges at hand, the court determines that even if waived by Chad and Lori, the conflict would persist in this case, and Means representation can't be defended. Another consideration in the decision is that the capital charges are more than a mere possibility in Lori's case. With that, Lori has a right to death penalty qualified counsel if she is represented by a public defender, and currently Means is not certified to represent clients in capital cases.
Well, and we've assumed since Chad, they filed their notice to seek the death penalty for him that it was coming for Lori. But now you see in this filing, it's all but certain as soon as she gets competent that she'll be arraigned. And then they're going to say, we intend to seek the death penalty.
Yeah. Yeah. So you're picking up next, right?
Yeah. So if and when Lori is restored to competency, the court could conduct an inquiry into her interest in waiving qualified counsel. But until such a time, the court's duty is to protect her rights. The court determined that the best protection for her exists in the appointment of a death penalty qualified public defender. And on August 6, 2021, James Archibald was appointed as co-counsel attorney. The decision came in part because Means' request to find Lori indigent. So there again, he shot himself in the foot trying to get her, anything he could stack in her corner, he kind of did. And all that sort of just, knocked him over yesterday.
Yep.
Among other things. I mean, clearly it was for the conflict, but there's a million other reasons.
Hey, I'm going to tell you, his tweeting and all was so unprofessional.
It is. Yeah, for sure.
You're not going to tell me that didn't play a part in Judge Boyce's mind a little bit, because we don't know what he was told off the record.
True.
Clean your, don't be tweeting.
Right.
So,
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, you normally don't have to tell a decent attorney that. Don't tweet about your cases that are ongoing, and probably not even when they're done. So finally, the very actions taken by Means raise questions about his ability to continue in his representation of Lori. At the same time of the conflict analysis is whether the decisions by Means demonstrates his ability to uphold his duties to Lori past and present. Means has potentially made himself a witness in the case by filing multiple pleadings in the form of declarations containing factual assertions of Means submitted under penalty of perjury. And this unusual manner of practice has caused the court further concern about the effectiveness of Means' representation of Lori in the case. Woo! That's a burn.
yeah, exactly.
That is the legal way of saying you don't. What is it? You don't have the sense God gave a billy goat. That's what we say in the South.
Yeah.
Also of concern is a possible intentional or unintentional waiver of Lori's attorney-client privilege where Means has submitted to the record supposed facts from statements Lori made to Means under the umbrella of the privilege she enjoys while she has been deemed incompetent to proceed. And this is precisely the situation that ethics rules caution against, where the rules stress that lawyers should avoid becoming witnesses in their clients' cases.
Yeah.
So an actual conflict exists due to Means' former representation of Chad, and the timing of that representation and Chad's waiver is insufficient to overcome the risk of harm and allowing Means to remain counsel to any party in this case.
Well, here's the deal. If Chad told him things and now we're separate, I mean, we don't know when Lori's going to be competent. So if they go on and Chad has his hearings, like, stuff that he told Means, he could use that against him to help his client.
Really good point. And I mean, we still have the motion to sever that Pryor hasn't filed yet, but he intends to. And I think it's going to happen, whether organically because she's not competent in time to prepare to go to trial, or that the sever is granted. Either way, it's going to be 2 trials. Unfortunately for the families, they're going to have to sit through this twice.
Yeah. Yeah.
So do you want to finish up?
Yeah. So additionally, Means' practice of submitting declarations under penalty of perjury have called into question his ability to completely and effectively represent Lori despite the stay in her case. The court is balancing Lori's rights to her counsel of choice and her present inability to be thoroughly examined to learn if she could knowingly, intelligently, and meaningfully waive her right to conflict-free qualified counsel given the potential for a penalty of death she faces in the crime she is charged with. The court must cautiously act to protect her rights. The decision of the court is to remove Means as counsel and to appoint Archibald as counsel in this case. So the conclusion, for foregoing reasons, the state's motion is granted. Mr. Means is disqualified as of today's date from representing Lori Noreen Vallow Daybell in Fremont County in all matters substantially related. Drop the mic, walk away.
The great Oz has spoken.
Yes, behind the green curtain.
Pay no attention to the men behind the curtain, which is now Means, because he's behind the curtain.
He's behind the curtain.
So, I mean, I think this is really good news all around for a million reasons, and you all know why. We can start seeing some normal proceedings here, and the filings are going to be what they should be. And then we're not going to have all these stupid little hearings that really have no business being heard in court. Yeah. Deal with this stuff behind the scenes. Leave the courts out of it until you need them.
Yeah, and here's the big thing. After Chad is convicted, Lori's convicted, whenever that may be, we don't want to have to answer or come up with things that, oh, wait, she was misrepresented, this happened, that happened. We don't want to have to go through that again. Like, when this is said and done, we want them to serve their time and go away.
Right. And if they get death, they're going to get an automatic appeal.
Yeah.
But don't help them out by giving them the opportunity to appeal when you could just remove the attorney who is putting this case in jeopardy in the future and be done. Bye-bye. See ya. Have a nice life.
See ya. Yeah.
So we shall see what Mark Means says or does publicly. I don't know. I mean, honestly, like, I'm not going to be surprised if he doesn't try to like sue Rob Wood or something.
Probably.
Hurt his feelings.
Yeah. Yep. He hurt my feelings on the playground.
Yeah, but I bet it's going to be really awkward in the building now with Pryor and Means sharing office space.
Yeah. I bet you that time at the coffee counter is going to be really weird.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, we shall see what happens. That's the big news. We are going to have another episode later where we sum up the Victoria Rose Smith case for the year. We were going to do Letitia Stout, but man, you guys, it's a lot of research, and I've been in this since last night.
Yeah.
So we're going to do something a little bit less involved with less facts and things like that. But all right, guys, that's all we have. We will see you soon. Have a good day.
Okay, round 2. Name something that's not boring.
A laundry? Ooh, a book club. Computer solitaire, huh?
Ah, sorry, we were looking for Chumba Casino. That's right, ChumbaCasino.com has over 100 casino-style games. Join today and play for free for your chance to redeem some serious prizes. ChumbaCasino.com. No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. 18+ terms and conditions apply. See website for details.
Judy was boring.
Hello.
Then Judy discovered ChumbaCasino.com.
It's my little escape.
Now Judy's the life of the party.
Oh, baby, mama's bringing home the bacon.
Whoa, take it easy, Judy. The Chumba life is for everybody. So go to ChumbaCasino.com and play over 100 casino-style games. Join today and play for free for your chance to redeem some serious prizes. ChumbaCasino.com. No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. 18+ terms and conditions apply. See website for details.